Joining us now is former Republican presidential candidate, former Texas congressman, and host of the Ron Paul Liberty Report, Ron Paul. What are your thoughts, sir, on Bush's comments there?
Well, I'm not so sure that that's going to offer much solution. Yeah, there's a different tone, but I think it's more of the same. It's all politics, and Bush is not going to be helpful in any way, because I think the country's in such dire problem, that the solution is not going to be found in either the Republicans or the Democrats talking with each other or having vice presidential, because they won't admit where the real problem is you know, the country is bankrupt. There's a lot of, you know, major events going on, like an end of an era of Keynesian economics, and Republicans and Democrats are struggling to survive it. They're arguing over who's going to be the leadership, but they want this to be preserved because the debt system doesn't work. Both sides wants to spend more money, one for the military, the other for the welfare state.
So, Ron,
and all they do is argue.
Based on your comments there, before I move on, we're looking at a U.S. stock market just closed at a record high yesterday, and there's a lot of talk about what we should believe there, because what's the price of credit? What's the price of currency? You know, with the Federal Reserve's involvement in the record low interest rates, what does it all mean? What do you make about this record rise in the U.S. stock market?
Well, this is a desperate attempt for the Federal Reserve to participate in preserving a system that can't be preserved. So everything is directed toward the stock market, and that's where the inflation. People argue, the liberals argue with me, and they say, oh, there's no inflation, no inflation. CPI is not going up, which they really hide the real CPI. But there's tremendous inflation. The money supply continues to increase, and it has to go somewhere. And right now, it's designed by the Plunge Protection Team, the President's Working Group on Financial markets, to save the stock market. So expect it to go up, because that's where it's all going. Nobody else wants the money. Who's going to buy money and build a new plant and create jobs? They say, oh, we're going to force these people to bring these jobs back to this country, but you have to create the conditions where a businessman will borrow this money. They don't even want the money. The money's not worth anything to them, because it's not worth it to build new plants in this country. It's all going to go to the stock market.
I've got some members of the panel that are chomping at the bit to jump in. So,
well, Congressman Paul, I just wanted to ask you a quick question about the anti-establishment fervor we've seen through this election cycle between Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. It's clear that a lot of voters do not like the establishment. But what happens if Donald Trump doesn't win and the ultimate insider, Hillary Clinton, wins in the general election? Is this the last we see of this anti-establishment, you know, wing of both parties, or is this just forecasting what's to come?
Well, I think overall the policies of the country and the trends in the country economically and in foreign policy won't change one bit. Yes, it will disrupt the Tea Party movement. It's already been disrupted, because now it's been the original Tea Party movement of a few years back has been taken over by populism and protectionism and these sort of things, and socialism. But this is a desperate attempt to try to save the system from falling apart. I mean, we're witnessing something similar to the breakup of the Soviet system. That system didn't work. This system doesn't work, but nobody wants to admit there's something wrong with the system. So they're struggling to hang on to power and to patch it together. So I don't think it makes a whole lot of difference. Foreign policy. Do you think Trump's going to bring the troops home and stop all those wars?
So Ron, who are you going to vote for?
I haven't decided yet. Right now, I have no candidate that I could say, you know, that'll be very helpful. I want to deal with the ideas, the economic ideas and political ideas of why the only system that can work well for anybody is to accept the principle that no government or individual is allowed to use aggression against another one. But all we have now is government aggression to do and get their will. Thousands of policemen carrying guns, and we have a militarized police force. So it transfers into our society, becomes so militant, and they're hateful of each other. Yeah.
We also have a Second Amendment.
Right. We should protect it. We should do whatever we can to do it.
You were talking about foreign policy. I mean, I actually think that a lot of what Trump has said about NATO and doing nation building at home and pulling back troops from abroad sounds a lot like what you used to say. But you don't believe he's going to follow through.
Well, you have to say, you know, what is he going to say tomorrow? You know, there was a killing by an American Muslim, and therefore he says the solution is let's go over and really bum the living daylights out of somebody. That is not a policy. No, I don't think. And then he says, yes, we're going to continue to do this, but we're going to make them pay for it. oh, yes, NATO's not so hot, but if we're in there, we're going to make them pay. So that has nothing to do with non-interventionism, of saying that we need a strong national defense, we need to defend our borders, we need to mind our own business, we need to admit the truth that we're bankrupt. And they all recognize that, and they won't admit they have to cut back, and that's why this is going to continue. And the spending, the momentum is so great that if you really cut anything, the president would get impeached immediately, because these special interests are so powerful, the rich and the poor, and that's all they live by. But the productivity of this country is down, and we're in a mess.
Former Congressman Ron Paul, good to have you this morning.
Thank you.